Hello again. I'm Coral. This is a really big book stack and it's full of very heavy books. I'm here with the last of my favorites that I read in 2021. Almost all of these are 2021 releases, but a few of them are not. Actually, it's more like half and half probably. Okay, this one was a new release this last year. I am going to have to cut that out of so many videos in the coming weeks. My God, this is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and this is a YA fantasy book. This is about a young woman named Shiori, and she is the princess of this kingdom. She's the only princess. The rest of her siblings are all brothers. So, boys. And in this kingdom that Shiori lives in, magic is expressly forbidden. But Shiori is starting to wonder if maybe she has a little bit of magic. She can do some things that she knows other people cannot do. Shiori, there's a couple things happening in her life right now. One of them is an arranged marriage to someone from another kingdom, and she's not really sure if she wants to do that. And while like all this is happening, she slips up and someone sees her magic, and her stepmother banishes her from the kingdom and turns her 6 brothers into cranes. And she says, if you ever speak a single word, not even like you can't tell anyone that you're the princess, it's like if you speak a single word, your brothers will die. And so Shiori is left to figure out how to get home, how to save her brothers, and it is a really great book about friendship, and there's just so much fun magic in this. And it's a little more lighthearted than the stuff that I usually like, but it was refreshing and I thought it was really well written, and I can't wait for the sequel. This is not a normal thing for me. Usually when I read YA series, I'm like, this didn't need a sequel, or this didn't need 3 sequels, you know what I mean? But this one I'm actually really looking forward to. So if you like YA fantasy, I would definitely recommend this. Oh, well, I guess the first 3 here are all kind of YA fantasy-ish series. This one is a little lighter on the fantasy. This is Small Favors by Erin A. Craig, and this was also a new release last year. This is about a young woman named Ellery, and where Ellery lives, it's almost puritanical, but not like expressly Puritans, but there are people who live in the woods and they live off the land, and they live in a really small community. Her family takes care of bees, and so there's like that aspect to it, which I found interesting. Like, I don't know much about that. And so it was fun to have Ellery tell me about this. Basically, in this story, these terrible tragedies are happening to the townspeople, and Ellery thinks these might be connected, and I don't want to tell you more than that. It just really kept me at the edge of my seat, and I needed to know what was going to happen. I think Erin A. Craig has a really nice style of writing that's lyrical, but like not too much so. And I enjoyed where this went, and I enjoyed the characters, and it was just really good. Okay, last of the YA for this video. This is Soul of the Sword by Julie Kagawa, and this is the 2nd book in a series. So I'll tell you about the first book. That is Shadow of the Fox, and that is about a half kitsune girl who is tasked with protecting a half of an ancient sacred scroll, and she has to like go on a little journey, right? And along the way she meets some friends, and it's a little typical in like that sort of tropey way, but I really enjoyed the people that she meets on her journey and the friendships that they develop. And I think the 2nd book has that even better. There's just such great friendships in this story, and this one is really fast-paced, and there's lots of action in it, and the story gets deeper, and I just can't wait to see where this goes. It is Asian inspired, and I really liked it. Okay, and next I'd like to tell you about The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This is definitely a more well-known, well-loved series that was not published in 2021. This is just like, I think maybe the perfect epic fantasy series. This follows a couple different perspectives. We've got Logan Nine Fingers, who has 9 fingers, and he's like a warrior barbarian. And then there's like this pretty boy named Captain Giselle, and he is kind of irritating, and because he's just really privileged in this story, and it shows. And then there's my favorite person, whose name is Inspector Glockta, and he is like a torturer, and it's just a big story, and I'm not even sure like exactly where the plot is going, but that's okay. I'm just along for the ride because I really enjoy the characters so much. It seems like, you know, there's definitely going to be a war coming. There's this like wizard that comes out of nowhere, and everyone's like, he should be dead, and like no one believes that this guy is actually who he says he is, because they haven't heard from this wizard in a millennia, maybe, I don't know how long, but it's just really fun. And I don't know if this is like classified as grimdark. I feel like in my head I'm saying yes it is, like I've heard that about it, but I think that this, at least this first book, is a little more upbeat and kind of humorous, and you know, I don't know, I really enjoyed reading this, and I'm really excited to continue on with the series. And it's mostly because of the characters. Like, this is very character focused, and I liked that because these characters were so interesting. Out of all these, my favorite this year was The Blacktongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This is the start to a series. It came out last year, so the sequels are not out yet, and believe me, I'm feeling very upset about it. This follows this guy. His name is Kinch, and he has gone through like thieves school. They've taught him how to be a good thief, but now he's got student debt, right? And he can't pay it off. So he has this tattoo on his cheek, and people can slap him because he hasn't paid off his debt to the Thieves Guild. And it's just very funny. And in order to pay off his debt, Kinch embarks on this journey with a lady warrior who has tattoos, living tattoos on her chest of these giant war crows, and it's just such an imaginative and incredible world. And this is another story where these characters go on a journey, which I'm finding I don't dislike as much as I thought, because there's so many here on this list where that's what's happening, and I really liked it. I think it just, you know, has to be the right story. Kinch and the ex-warrior Galva, they're going on this trip, and they meet some people along the way, and in this world there are like goblins and krakens and cats. There's a cat. If you like cats, there's a cat in this, and it was just such a really great book, and most of it is like really upbeat. But then it gets to some places that are very dark, and I think it makes those dark places feel even darker because so much of this is like humorous, and it made me laugh out loud. So like that juxtaposition of like those high highs and those low lows really make this book really exceptional. And I really love Kinch as a character. He is so funny, and he doesn't take himself too seriously, and it's just really good. I love this book. Okay, the last two are Brandon Sanderson books. I'm going to tell you that right now. This one is The Rhythm of War, which is his most recent Stormlight Archives book. It is a tome. It's just like sliding out of its dust jacket. The Stormlight Archives, very simply, is a series where there is this world, and they're at war. The humans are at war with kind of like the indigenous people of this world called the Parshendi, and the Parshendi are like less human-like, they're humanoid, but they speak a different language, and their language has like a rhythm to it, almost like they're humming when they sing, and different tones have different inflections and like mean different things, and they have these carapaces, and we just follow these really great, interesting characters who come from many different places in this world, and you know, it's just a really great, expansive, epic fantasy. And it's so hard to give a concise synopsis because there's just so much, especially by this fourth book. And every time I finish a book, I'm like, I could have never told you that I thought this was going to happen this way, because there's no way anyone could predict some of this shit. It's just so imaginative. And that also brings me to this series, the Mistborn series, and I really love that this year. The first book, The Final Empire, is mostly about a girl named Vin, and she's a street urchin, she's an orphan, and she has to make her living by helping out like these, I don't know, like a thieves' den basically, a group of thieves, but there are many different groups of thieves, and eventually she gets recruited for kind of a heist, and this group that she's recruited into is very unlike the other people she's worked for, and they treat her kindly, and it becomes more of like a found family, like a really just strong friendship. I don't know, and that's not even saying anything about like the world that this takes place in, which is also just really imaginative. I mean, that's all I can say about it. I could spend 20 minutes talking about it, but I think if you haven't read this by now, you definitely should, especially if you're someone who dabbles in fantasy. I think this one is more accessible than Stormlight Archives, just because the Stormlight Archives throws you into a world that's much, much different than ours, whereas the Mistborn, it's not an untypical setting where they're in this city, and it's kind of like a, you know, they're in like alleyways, the sloshy alleyways of the city where like, you know, a cart drives by and splashes you with like gray water, you know what I mean? Except for that, it's really ashy. There's ash falling from the skies. And oh my gosh, like I'm doing it again. I loved this series so much, and I would definitely recommend it to people who love fantasy. And those are, I mean, I didn't mean for these to be all fantasy. I was just like, anything that wasn't horror, I put into a pile. And, you know, it just happened to be basically all fantasy books. So those are my favorite non-horror reads of 2021. Some of them 2021 releases, some of them not. But still really great books, even if they're backlist. That's all I have for you today. I feel like I've been filming for 27 years today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd love to hear if you read any really great fantasy series this year, because as much as I love horror, I have a very soft spot in my heart for a good fantasy series. And I'd love to hear, you know, if there were any, even if they're backlists, like what you read last year that really captured you. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you later. Goodbye!